Hi all. I know everyone loves Morphy, but did you know that Steinitz, our first world champion, was known as the Austrian Morphy? He played in great romantic style up until 1872, when he changed his style to be more positional, and that became the basis of our modern positional play, things like the accumulation of advantages he demonstrated thoroughly when he radically changed his style. I don't think there's been any stylistic transformation as radical as Steinitz. But let's have a look at some of his games in that romantic period where he was playing more like Morphy. So E4, this was against Philipp Meitner in Vienna 1860. So E4, E5. We see now D4, very aggressive stuff, a temporary pawn sacrifice. Now here in live book, knight F6 is the main move. For example, E5, this position is relied on nowadays for equality, so knight F6 here. But in this game we see bishop C5, white castles, knight F6. This is also potentially now the same sort of ideas. E takes F6. In live book there's over 100 games where this is apparently equalish. Check, we have rook E1 check, bishop E6, knight G5. Up until here, black's play is absolutely by the book. But now, white usually plays knight CE4 here, and black castles, and it's thought to be about equal. Complicated variations. But we have now G4. This is quite rare nowadays, because it's thought that queen G6 should be okay for black. But in this game, we see queen takes F6. And a bit like when I've shown Kasparov games, when people go off the books, how do you know how to punish these different moves? Isn't this logical to get that pawn? Is it too greedy in some respect? Well, white plays now knight D5. And you might think, well, what's the point of that? Doesn't the queen just go back? Philipp Meitner put his queen back. But now we see a really radical punishment of black's position. Can you guess this move? And engines approve, by the way. It's smooth. Engine smoothness here is here. So white to play, if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay. Rook takes E6. Yes. As smooth as Will Smith in Men in Black. Super smooth. F takes, and the idea, I hope you know the idea, the follow-up. Don't guess other moves before if you don't know the follow-up. Knight takes E6, and both knights are really helping each other here. If queen takes, then we have knight takes C7 check. So the knight's immune. The knight is immune on D5. Queen D7. Queen E2. Now this knight stops the king castling. Perhaps the best move is to try and sort of castle with king F7. White would still maintain a small advantage, technically, for example like this. And taking here is possible, because this is running into queen takes C4 and knight E6. So it's technically this gets a small advantage anyway. But bishop E7 was played, keeping the king on E8. And now white has a massive advantage, which is made use of. Knight D takes C7 check. King F7. Queen takes C4. The knight really wants to do a discovered check now to win the queen. Knight E5. The queen, where does the queen move? The queen wants to stay on this diagonal, so queen B3 for this discovered check to be intact as a threat. Queen D6. And now a very, very powerful and effective forcing move. F4, nudging that central knight away as the prelude to any discovered check. Yes, I believe this is much stronger perhaps than a discovered check. Or maybe not. No, maybe knight F4 check is also good. But anyway, F4. The knight goes to and takes on G4. This might be hastening to the end. Knight G5 is a double check now, forcing the king to move. Now if the king goes to f6, queen f7, checkmate. The pawn is, that pawn move is also handling an escape square here, a critical escape square. And on f8, then there's queen f7, checkmate. So the king ventures out after this, but queen d3 check. Now if the king goes to f6 or h6, there's a knight fork here or here, yes. So the king goes outrageously up the board, but now check. And now white just takes time to take this, threatening now knight e6 or knight e4, both are devastating moves here. Queen b6, knight ge6 check, king f6, and now the move played is actually queen g5 check, and queen takes g7 is checkmate. So that's a really nice game with the queen and the two knights. Really vicious combination of the three attacking pieces there, chasing the king from pillar to post. So another pretty smooth performance by our first world chess champion, who was known in this period as the Austrian Morphy up until 1872. This is back in 1860. He had a big romantic style, and he was really a student of Paul Morphy, and he admitted that, I believe. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.